More than 6 weeks after the media scrum at Brawl Out, we are now starting to see some of the fallout. Which means that if there is an investigation, and we still have no evidence there actually is one, it may be just about wrapping up. Dave Meltzer was first to report that Ace Steel is gone from AEW. He was released on Monday for his role in the backstage incident where he is alleged to have hit Nick Jackson in the face with a chair and bit Kenny Omega on the arm. Kenny had visible bite marks on his arm after that. All while defending his best friend, CM Punk, and/or his own wife, depending on which version of the story you believe. His wife, Lucy, was said to be in the locker room when all of this went down. She was in there looking after Punk's dog, Larry. Since they were in Chicago, Punk brought his dog to the show. She had a broken foot at the time, and so one version was that Ace was just defending his wife. I said from the get-go, at a minimum, Ace Steel had to go. The guy threw a fucking chair at one of the EVPs of the company and bit another EVP on the arm, like a dog. There was an actual dog in the room. Apparently Larry was on his best behavior. I can't say the same for Ace Steel. But he had no chance of surviving this. He was going to fall no matter. It's like the whole Johnny Ace thing all over again. When all the news came out about Vince McMahon and Johnny Ace and the hush money and the investigation that the board of directors was overseeing, you knew that no matter what came out of this, whether Vince stayed or whether Vince went, and I sit here now months later, I'm still shocked that Vince McMahon ended up walking away. I'm still shocked by that. But the one thing that I said from day one, Johnny Ace is not going to survive this. Johnny Ace is the low-hanging fruit. He was going to be gone no matter what. I felt the same way here about Ace Steel. No matter what happens with CM Punk, with the Bucks, with Omega, you had to know that Ace Steel was not going to survive this. Naturally, it makes you wonder if they let go of CM Punk's best friend, his trainer, what does that mean for Punk's future in AEW? Doesn't look like he has a future in AEW. Meltzer says Punk and AEW are in talks about his future, but right now it looks doubtful that he will be back. And those with close knowledge of the situation said the company is in talks with Punk about a buyout of the remaining years on his contract, which is a sign that Punk is all but gone. If they're talking about buying him out, this guy is as good as gone. The holdup right now is said to be the non-compete period, and if they're talking about a non-compete, that means AEW wants to protect against Punk going back to WWE. And for all the people who mock the idea and who think there's no chance of that happening, not only is there a chance of that happening, after the backstage show on Fox was canceled, WWE reached out to Punk about a possible return, and he listened to what they had to say. He did not say no. Now, the talks never really went anywhere. He still had issues with them playing games, as he said. But the fact that they even reached out and the fact that he listened to what they had to say tells you you cannot ever close the door on the possibility of Punk going back to WWE. Tony Khan knows that, which is why I'm sure he wants to make sure there is a lengthy non-compete. If the situation unfolds where they buy out Punk's contract, he wants to make sure he can't just waltz into WWE. And if CM Punk is going to wrestle again, outside of maybe an indie shot here and there, if he signs a contract anywhere, the only place that he is going to sign with is WWE, because nobody else can afford to pay him what WWE is going to pay him. I said this right after the scrum. CM Punk has to go. He had to go. Omega and the Bucks had to be stripped of their EVP titles. They shouldn't have active talent as EVPs in the company anyway. They should be stripped of more than just their trios titles. But those early stories of them kicking in the door to Punk's dressing room, that was all nonsense. The story seems to be that they entered with the company's chief legal officer. They brought her along because they wanted to make sure legally they covered their asses. And the other consistent part of all these stories is that Punk was the one who threw the first punch. But unless we get a blow-by-blow from their supposed investigation, which we won't, we're never going to know for sure. Nobody will ever know for sure, except the people who were in the room. Nobody will ever know for sure exactly what happened and what the exact sequence of events were. But Punk had to go. Even before any punches were thrown, just for the things he said and the way he acted at the media scrum and how much of a chump he made his boss look like. A boss, by the way, who bent over backwards for him to give him everything he ever wanted. He was on Tony Khan's wish list when he started AEW. Tony Khan has said this. Punk was the #1 name on his wish list that he wanted to get in that company. He was going to do whatever it took to get CM Punk to sign. Eventually, he got him. He didn't get him on day one, but eventually he got him. He gave this guy everything he ever wanted. Punk did more damage to the company in that scrum than any punch that was thrown backstage. And the sentiment among a lot of the talent behind the scenes is said to be decidedly anti-Punk. Especially the things that he said about Hangman Page, because they like Hangman. Hangman is well liked. He goes out there and calls Hangman a dumb fuck who never did anything in the business. This is the guy who was pushed as a top star in the company. And a former AEW world champion. And Punk is going out there going, yeah, this guy never did shit. He made the entire company look bad. And he made the entire night about him and his personal problems, when it should have been about what a great show they put on that night. He went in there with an agenda. He had a whole plan in mind, and when, Nick Hausman didn't kind of play along, when he asked Nick Hausman, aren't you friends with him? Aren't you friends with Scott Colton? Oh, as a matter of fact, I'm not. Oh, well, okay, well, I'll go on my rant anyway. He went in there with an agenda. He made it all about him and his own personal problems. Fightful had a report saying several backstage talent stated they weren't interested in working in the same locker room with Punk. They would only work with him if he made significant amends after his actions at the scrum. I don't know about you. I can't see CM Punk coming back on bended knee to apologize. That ain't going to happen. You cannot have this man back in that locker room. By letting him go, Tony Khan is sending a message that even if you are a huge star, and for AEW, he is their biggest star. He is to them what Roman Reigns is right now to WWE, just as far as his place in the pecking order. That it doesn't matter who you are, you cannot behave like that. If you do, there are consequences. It's an amazing fall from grace. Punk came back at the United Center. He got a hero's welcome, one of the greatest comebacks in wrestling history as far as crowd reactions. That's how loud it was. That's how genuinely happy those people were to see that man back on TV after 7 years away. People were crying. I was happy to see CM Punk back. I'm not a CM Punk hater. I was very happy to see him back. It was great to see him back on TV. And get him feuding with MJF. That was the #1 feud I wanted to see when he first came back. And think of all the new faces that he had, to work with. 7 years he was away. All the new faces he had to work with, and some that he already did. We never did get that Bryan Danielson rematch that I know he wanted. But Tony Khan gave this man the keys to the castle. He might have even given him an office job. He may have given him more than the keys. He may have given him his own office. He let that one slip by accident during the interview with Ariel Helwani. The one thing Tony did share with Ariel, and he did it by accident, was that Punk may have also had some kind of executive role in the company. We're not sure. But, he worked that great program with MJF. They never completed their story. It should have been Punk doing the honors for MJF and dropping the title to him at Full Gear, not Jon Moxley. They put the championship on him. He got hurt. They had to change their summer plans. He came back, he lost the title, won it right back, got hurt again, which forced them to change their fall plans. Although that wasn't the only thing that forced them to change their fall plans. But even if the scrum didn't go down the way that it did, Punk got hurt. So right away, unless Tony wanted another interim champion for 8 fucking months, they were going to have to take the belt off him. And again, it ruined all of their fall plans. What should have been the summer of Punk turned into the fall of Punk, literally. He was gifted the opportunity of a lifetime, and he got paid very well to do it. And what did he do? He turned around and took a giant shit all over them. Now it looks like they're going to pay him just to go away. They probably can't outright fire him because of the Bucks getting involved the way they did. That's probably where all the legal threats are coming from, or the fear of possible, legal fallout. So they'll pay him. They'll pay him to go away. And the ultimate indignity for CM Punk would be for him to go crawling back to WWE after all of the shit that he has said about them, all the digs that he's taken about WrestleMania being a buy one, get one extravaganza, and if they had, if they bought Ring of Honor, it would just end up as a tab on a shitty app and the boys wouldn't get paid for it, which is true, by the way. Had they bought Ring of Honor, it would be a tab on Peacock. But all of the things that he has said about them for so long, for him to go crawling back after all of that, what a massive hypocrite he would come across as. Now, would Triple H take him back? I think Triple H, to borrow a phrase from The Authority, would do what he thinks would be best for business. And Vince McMahon would do the same. Vince McMahon brought back plenty of people he had a falling out with. In some cases, it was actually Triple H who helped broker the deal. If Triple H thought that he could get CM Punk, I think he would meet with him, and yes, I think that he would make that deal. If they could come to terms, I think they would make that deal. He's still a big name, and I would imagine Triple H knows that Fox would probably love to have Punk back on TV. They loved having him on FS1 for the backstage show. They would love to get CM Punk on SmackDown. So that's not the question. People asking the question, would WWE take him back? Would he go back? Like, you're asking the wrong question. That's not the question. The question is it worth it? The guy has been made of glass. 2 major injuries in the span of 3 months. Can he even stay healthy long enough to make a difference? And is it worth bringing back someone with that kind of baggage? Who's to say that he wouldn't do the same thing to Triple H at some point that he did to Tony Khan? And he actually likes Tony, or he liked him anyway. And he still did what he did. Imagine what he would do working for the idiotic daughter and the doofus son-in-law. Do not dismiss the idea of him going back to WWE. It absolutely could happen, but it's not worth the drama for Triple H. I would say thanks, but no thanks.